I just went in to go move the Cybertruck and heard a big contactor thunk. And now I've got all of the, oh no, everything. Now it's dead. What the heck? Oh no. It may all stem from the drive inverter that was down last week, but it had been driving front wheel drive. Now it won't even go into gear. Now the low voltage systems have completely died. So the truck is, oh no. Do you have an alert for the Pyro fuse?
Yep, so there are alerts for the Pyro fuse. So
I love that it says deployed, because I felt this, Alex. When those things went, it sounded like a firework was going off underneath the truck.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it is. It's a pyrotechnic, just like an airbag would be.
Thank you to our sponsors for today's video: InfyPower, Eaton, EVCS, and Ionna. InfyPower is the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage. InfyPower, innovation for your power. Also, Eaton. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware, and software gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. Also, EVCS 2025, the premier EV charging expo. From utilities to policymakers and tech innovators, the key players in shaping EV infrastructure are coming together at EVCS Las Vegas on March 25th through 27th. We would love to see you there. And Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome to a super disappointing video from my side. I'm not thrilled to share this news with you. Last week, I did a video where I showed that my Cybertruck had a rear motor inverter failure on the back passenger side. And now I regret to inform you that the whole truck has had a failure and it's broken. I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened. If you haven't watched the previous video, I suggest that you do, and talk about why I have literally a brick, a non-functioning brick in my garage right now. Super sad for my side. Well, you joined me, and actually my buddy Andreas is over here today. Hey, Andreas.
Hello.
We're in my garage.
Yeah, it's very cold, actually.
It is cold, yeah. So this is normally where I park my Cybertruck every day, and I use it as, and I have used it as my daily driver pretty much since I bought it. Now, I got this about a year ago when you and I and a bunch of our friends drove across the country with everyone.
Oh, yeah.
That was such a fun time because that was when no one had one of these.
Yeah, people would, cut off people in traffic to just take a photo, and
yeah, just crazy positive reactions.
Yeah.
Now,
oh my God.
Now it's just crazy negative reactions. Yeah. Such a difference. And, I think there's a whole social aspect to owning a Cybertruck, which we're not going to get into really in this video. Maybe in my 1-year ownership update, I will. But the reason I'm making this video is because in the last update of my truck, I had a right rear motor inverter failure. And what happened was I was driving along. I made a left turn, hard throttle to get up to speed. And about 5 to 8 seconds later, can't remember exactly, but very shortly after, a bunch of warnings showed up on the screen. Rear motor disabled. I thought it was one of those things I could open the door, close the door, it would reset. Turns out, nope. Turns out I lost the rear drive unit. And what was really cool about that is this is a tri-motor Cybertruck. I went into it in detail in the previous video. I was actually able to drive with the front motor. The front permanent magnet primary axle was pulling this truck along. And I think it's kind of cool that I was able to suffer such a major motor failure and still have this thing move and drive. And I drove it for a couple days like that, actually. And that was pretty interesting. One thing I didn't make a big of enough point of in the previous video, I did mention it, is that there was actually a recall for this issue, Andreas.
Hmm.
So there was a recall that was sent to where we have the truck registered, which is in Florida, because we had to buy it there to get it first, do all the stuff. So it's registered to my parents' condo in Florida. After the year was up, I was essentially going to sell this truck back to myself because I signed a thing with Tesla that said, you know, if you buy an early Cybertruck, you have to hold it for a year or they blacklist you, all that stuff. I probably could have sold it. But whatever, I covered that in the previous video. But anyway, what I'm essentially getting to is I never got the letter in the mail saying that I had a recall. I didn't know.
Ooh.
So the truck broke. I posted about it. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Jordan did some research online because I was like, Jordan, before I shoot this video, can you see if there's any other Cybertruck rear tri-motor failures? There was a bunch of the permanent magnet motor failures, which is the front motor on this or the rear motor on the standard dual motor. Those were common failures. And this already had a motor replacement, a preemptive replacement from Tesla, probably because the truck's on YouTube, is my guess.
Yeah.
It was an engineer. You remember that? The engineering study?
And that took a long, like 4 weeks or so, right?
A long time. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. So then the rear motor broke, and I'm like, damn, I haven't heard of those going bad. Apparently that's a thing, and the inverters need to be replaced or exchanged or something. I didn't know. The Tesla app never warned me, never saw that in there. Anyway, regardless, I probably would have taken it in at some point, but either way, the issue came, it happened, and the truck rear motor failed.
Actually, shouldn't the Tesla app be able to notify you of recalls too?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I never got like a pop-up.
Yeah.
And my dad, I was talking to my dad about this earlier today. He's like, Kyle, wasn't your truck in for service like after that recall happened? I'm like, I don't know, actually. I have no clue. It's possible.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's not like it's an unknown failure mode for Cybertrucks. That's what I'm trying to get at. And the truck drove on single motor. Drove it around for a couple days, parked it here in my garage. I went to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest. We made some Rivian videos. We checked out a bunch of cool stuff. I think there's even more stuff that hasn't been posted yet from South by. Yeah, we have a whole Rivian R3 like wish list tour with the head of design, which is really cool. And I was really thinking about driving this down, but I couldn't because the truck was broken. So we took the Model S instead. And that was a fantastic road tripper. The Model S just cruises, dude. You and I have done 1,000-mile-plus days in that car.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And I came back here and I went to get in the Cybertruck today and I opened the door and everything was, actually I preconditioned it first because like you mentioned, it's cold in the garage. We don't have an insulated garage. It's a little bit annoying. Maybe we should. But I preconditioned it inside for probably 5 minutes to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. It was all good. I got in the truck. It was warm. So the high voltage heater was working. Everything seemed normal. And I just assumed that I was able to drive the truck, same, just front motor. And the reason I needed this truck is we're about to do the new Model Y range test. It'll be tomorrow after this video goes up. And for those of you who don't know, we drain all the cars on the side of the road and charge them off of our Cybertruck.
Yep, love it.
It's the best. I mean, it's one of the most, if I haven't made it clear in all of my videos, I love this truck. I mean, okay, shape, design, social status, that's one thing. The other side is just, it's so much fun to drive. It's so useful. It's a huge bed. It's insanely cool. I mean, I still think it's one of the coolest things.
Yeah, so I love the truck too. I hate that it's so controversial.
Yeah.
Anybody who hates the Cybertruck, just drive one. It will change your mind, I think.
Yeah, they just drive great.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. So this is like, it's not like we hate Cybertrucks. It's just, I bought it because I thought it was cool. I wanted to make videos and we show the good and bad. So this is ownership right here, our ownership experience. Yep. So I got in it a few hours ago. After preconditioning it, everything was on as fine. The warnings on the screen showed that the same rear motor disabled stuff. I hit the brake pedal and kaboom underneath me. I was like, whoa, what just happened there? By the way, for those of you who are curious, what I had, because we were away in Austin and I do this normally, the truck was plugged in while it was preconditioning, so it was charging and everything, and set at 50% state of charge. The battery indicated 46%, but that's because it was a little cold, so it had the blue line. So it was at 50% on the high voltage battery. That's where I leave my cars 99% of the time. So I get in, hit the brake, kaboom! I'm like, oh no, and all the warning lights popped up. So what I'm going to do is go back in time, play people some of the clips that I shot then, and then right after this big crash happened, and clearly the truck was not going to go into gear. and then we'll get into it. I just went in to go move the Cybertruck and heard a big contactor thunk. And now I've got all of the, oh no, everything. Now it's dead. What the heck? Holy smokes. Let's see what's going on over in service mode, because that was crazy. That was a big, kathunk, and just went completely offline. Adaptive ride control degraded. Wow, we've got 26 errors that just, oh no. So it must what? Oh no. It may all stem from the drive inverter that was down last week, but it had been driving front wheel drive. Now it won't even go into gear. Oh man, I hope I don't have to have this thing towed to the service center. Reaxial steering disabled, damping control, oil pump failure. I'm guessing it's got to be some high voltage interlock situation. So let's go over and check that, because Tesla's really cool. They give you all the info. And yep, it's a potential high voltage leakage issue, or some sort of ground fault or something going on within the high voltage loop, and the rear inverter now has caused my truck to not move at all. Even though I've got 3 motors, now it just won't go into gear whatsoever. So it might just be dead in my garage. Not sure. And as I'm sitting here, now the low voltage systems have completely died. So the truck is... oh no! And again, the service appointment was 11-day wait. But that's, it's whatever. It's rough. Definitely going to make an update video for you guys at some point. I just want to to figure out what's going on with this situation. Oh, how am I going to get it out of the garage? We're going to have to drag this thing out. Oh no, the neighbors are going to be thrilled. Actually, since I hit the brake, you hit the screen, nothing. The whole thing is just off. I can't even get out with the button. I've got to use the old emergency release handle to let me out. So how am I going to get back in? I should leave the door open. Well, guys, you can see the high voltage system went into, sort of the high voltage interlock loop, showed a fault here in the back right inverter. It's interesting how it happened after the truck was already drivable, though. So it went into its failure mode where it shut off the rear motor, drove it around, no problem, for a couple days, left it parked, plugged in to the truck at 50% state of charge, like I normally do. And I also leave the truck always plugged in because I have my power share set up. So if I ever lose power, then I can power the house off the truck, which is so cool.
Amazing. One
of the best features. And unfortunately, we just have such stable power here in Colorado that I've never had to use it.
I had a power outage this week, actually, in my apartment. I was like, damn, I wish I had the Cybertruck.
Yeah, exactly. And so my truck came with all the installation stuff for everything, which was really cool. So I did a whole video on that on this channel, if you're curious. It actually works amazing. There hasn't been a need to use it.
Yeah.
And I was planning on running the house for like a month off the Cybertruck and like taking it to get supercharged and then running the house for free. I thought it'd be a cool thought experiment.
Yeah.
But I used the truck so much, I just couldn't, I love it. I use it. We need it for all the testing. I couldn't just run the house off of it.
That's great.
So come on over here. So this is where, after the 12 volt systems died, I imagine it went into some sort of protect mode so it didn't drain the 48 volt system. It's going to get a little tight over here, Andreas, sorry. Yeah. I've left the driver's door open because there's no other way that I can get into the truck. So this is it. And you can see it's completely dead. Andreas, I don't know if you can zoom in on the wheel here, but there ain't no power to this thing.
No power.
And I can hit the brake pedal as hard as I can. Nothing. You tap the screen, nothing. It's just low voltage. Dead. So if I wasn't able to get into the Cybertruck, what would I have done? Because there's no like mechanical door handle. Well, we've actually run into that before on this truck when we did the initial range test, if you remember that. And it's really tight because you can see I pulled really far forward in my garage, so it's not super convenient. But inside of the wheel well, right in this little gap, there's 2 wires tucked away behind a cover, a positive and a negative, and you can hook up like a 12 volt power source to that, even though it's a 48 volt truck. and that will open the front trunk.
Cool.
So then it comes off your 12-volt power supply.
That's awesome.
Then you can jump the 48-volt system with a 12-volt power supply. And hopefully that would bring it back to life. The reason I'm thinking it might not, Andreas, is because it shut off immediately, well, within 2 minutes of the high voltage system going down. And to me, that just seems like, oh, maybe it won't power up.
Yeah.
Which is like,
yeah.
good thing I've left this open.
Yep.
So we're not going to close that. Also, the glass is going to rest against the metal here.
Yeah.
So it's not great for the seals. It's not great for the glass. A little bit bummed about that for sure. And pulling the emergency handle and forcing the door open just felt wrong.
Painful.
Yeah, totally. Because the glass doesn't drop because the power's dead.
Yeah.
Let's run back over on this side because I called up my buddy Alex, who we're going to bring on this video in a second. And, oh, dang, it's tight over here. And I called up Alex and I said, we were going to shoot a video anyway for the Renew channel, which is our channel focused all about servicing EVs and repairing them, mostly for cheap, used. We have like 2 Mitsubishi i-MiEVs, our B-Class, stuff like that for that channel. And one of the videos we were going to do for that channel this week was showcasing third-party repair shops having Toolbox access. And Toolbox is the sort of gateway diagnostics tool that Tesla service techs and third-party techs can subscribe to access vehicle information so you can repair them. And Tesla's done a lot for third-party repair in the last, especially 3 years, but really in the last 2 years, like the right to repair stuff, having parts available, giving the back-end data to folks on how to service them. And what we were going to do was to basically log into the Cybertruck and show all the real hardcore faults of what's going on here. And so with the light going off there, I think it's a good time to go in and actually call Alex because he told me the truck sent a couple last signals before it died before. And he said it blew both the Pyro fuses in the battery.
Pyro fuses.
Yeah. So those are one-time poof, poof, low and high. We talked about Tesla maybe buying back this truck. That was like something that a lot of people commented in the previous video. And I was kind of like, I really want to keep it. But at this point, I'm kind of just like, maybe you should just take this thing back.
Yeah.
And maybe I'd get another one. Maybe I'd probably get a dual motor. I wouldn't do another tri-motor because of the front motor clunk.
Right.
You've experienced that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
You go over a bump and kaboom. It's really scary, actually.
Yeah.
So anyway, I asked our service center if that's possible, and they said they'll put me in touch with someone. I think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
But it's not like I don't want to keep the truck. I love the truck. I just don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a lemon by now, right?
I don't know legally if it is.
Yeah.
It's been in survey, whatever. But I think Tesla has a pretty good buyback program where like there's just a list this long at this point of stuff. I don't know. Okay, let's call Alex and log in and actually pull the logs off this thing. Whatever last signals it sent before it just died.
Sounds good.
Well, guys, you join us now with Alex from the Out of Spec Renew YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, please do. Alex also owns and where he films Out of Spec Renew as at his own shop in the Portland, Oregon area, working on new and mostly primarily used electric cars for maintenance, service, and repair. He's a genius when it comes to electric cars. He has a Tesla with almost 500,000 miles on it. How many miles you got on your Model S, Alex?
I think I'm getting close to 470,000.
Damn. So, Alex is just a super cool guy. We love working with him. And one of the things you did, Alex, was after my inverter failed in my motor, we were going to shoot a video for Renew talking about Toolbox access and everything. Before I pull that screen up, can you just explain to everyone what that is, just the rough how that works?
Yeah, so Tesla Toolbox is, it's called Toolbox 3. So it's Tesla's sort of in-house diagnostic system. And it's just kind of a web-based diagnostic program. So you just log in online through your browser, and you can connect to cars either locally, by plugging in directly. But what you can also do is you can connect to cars remotely to do remote diagnosis. And the way that works is you basically send a request to the owner of the car, and it goes through Tesla. So you put in the VIN of the vehicle and the email that's associated with the customer's account, and then they get the email from Tesla basically asking for a remote access request. And then once they approve that, then whoever is the Toolbox user can get access to it and do some remote diagnostic work on it.
So what we have for our Cybertruck, I'm going to pull it up right now. We have basically the Toolbox system here pulled up. We gave you authorization to our Cybertruck a couple days ago, I guess, and you were able to pull some preliminary logs and then also some things after the high and low voltage system shut off.
Yep. Yeah. So if I go ahead and copy the VIN here, and then I can paste, and it won't actually connect here, but I should still be able to get the logs off of it when I attempt to connect. So it's going to try to wake up the vehicle, but of course, since it's dead, it won't actually be able to wake it up.
Right, so it'll go through this process.
Is I can go over here to the CAN Explorer, and I should be able to get all of the info on it. So it's still trying to connect there. It'll time out in a minute because it can't actually connect to anything.
So these alerts, what are those from? Are those from our truck?
Yep, so these are all the alerts, and if I click on this, this is kind of showing our window of availability here.
Dang, Andreas, that's cool.
So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So with this, I actually, when I first did the connection to it, I requested a log pull, and the furthest you can go back is a month. So I can actually go back as far as a month and look at data. So if I go back,
to the day that the inverter failed?
Yeah. So that was that the 6th, I think?
I'm going back through my photos. I think you're about right.
20.
This is so cool. What other car company lets you see all this stuff? Now, obviously, you got to pay a hefty fee, but this is so cool, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And honestly, Tesla has brought the cost on this way down. It used to be extremely difficult to do any diagnostic work on Teslas, but things have improved a lot in the last couple of years. And actually, just about maybe 4 or 5 months ago, they reduced the price for this. So it's actually $700 for a yearly subscription to Toolbox.
And
they also have subscriptions for monthly access or even daily access. So if you just need to use it for a day, I think it's like 125 or 150 bucks or something like that for 24-hour access.
Super cool. So can we scroll down until we find where it happened?
Yeah, so what I can do is I can actually we'll just go like newest to oldest, and this is just going to be within this window of time that we have pulled up here. So
and these would be all of the service level alerts that popped up in the vehicle, not necessarily customer view.
This is actually going to be customer, service, and service fix. So we have all 3 of those categories. I can get rid of, say, customer facing alerts, or I can check and uncheck all these at will, basically. But like this one, so we've got this drive inverter rear phase A peak, and you can also click on this little article tab, and it pulls up an article with a bunch of information about what the alert actually means.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah, sometimes they're more useful than others. I think that because the Cybertruck is so new, there's not a ton of super useful articles in it. This is actually the first time I've really looked at any stuff for the Cybertruck. So there's not as much info as maybe there would be for some other vehicles. But if I just click on the alert, then it pulls up another window here, and we can see the point in time where that occurred. So if I click on this, it kind of blocks it because it has so many different values. But if we scroll through here, we get this alert set, and it gives you some different parameters. Like we have this, well, I can't move the mouse and show it, but we've got this desaturate L. That's what, maybe about 6 things down the list. It has a frequency of 1. And then as you can see, as I'm moving, we get a gate drive error counter 1, 2, 3, and so on.
Those are issues within the inverter, right? The gate drivers?
Yep. And that's specifically on phase B that it's throwing those alerts for. And I know that when I was looking before, there were some that were showing up for, I think, gate C as well.
So maybe it blew 2 power modules. So these are the silicon carbide modules, power drivers inside the inverters.
Yep. So this is phase C, and you can see phase C just did it one time. So that might have been just related to some sort of issue where, all the phases are kind of interconnected. So they through the windings in the motor. So there might be a little bit of shared stuff going on. And this is actually, so this is phase A as well right here. And what I can actually do is I can stack these. So I can stick one on top of the other and show them all in one graph.
This is super cool, Alex.
So
I want to get Toolbox now.
All three in one graph, and you can see where they coincide with each other. And then phase C is the one that kind of had alerts first and then continued to have alerts. So it seems like phase B is likely the main culprit here.
And really the fix for this, I mean, I imagine they're just going to replace the inverter, not the entire drive unit. Is that what you would imagine they would do?
I mean, based on some of the stuff that I've seen about these issues, I mean, it seems like there's certainly been some issues that folks have been having with drive units on Cybertrucks. It seems like most of the time they're doing a full drive unit replacement, but it's possible that they might just do an inverter replacement as well. I think it just kind of depends on, what type of hardware and stuff they have on hand. I know that on like some of the legacy, like stuff like Legacy Model S, they don't do inverter replacements. They just do complete drive unit. But the newer stuff is a little bit more modular. It's a little bit easier to do individual replacements on those components. So it's possible they could maybe do just an inverter.
So so that was the initial problem, but we were still able to drive with those alerts present.
Yep.
So today, what happened was there was a window from when the high voltage basically went completely insane and the truck wouldn't activate drive rail until where the low voltage system dropped. And you mentioned that it may have sent up some signals during that time period.
Yep, exactly. So, and I did check. I wasn't able to reconnect to the truck. I did attempt to, but apparently the truck did log enough stuff and upload it to the cloud to still be able to access it. So if I change our time scale here, let's see, we'll go high to low. So a bunch of the stuff, we get these bus under voltage.
And is that why maybe the 48 volt system died, is because it was losing too much voltage?
Well, so I can show you what that is. So if we pull up our article here, so this is drive inverter warning, battery under voltage, unable to produce torque and power from drive unit. HV bus voltage drops below lower voltage threshold. So basically it means that it's lost high voltage power.
That could have been after the Pyro fuse went.
Right, exactly.
Do you have an alert for the Pyro fuse?
Yep, so there are alerts for the Pyro fuse. So if I go, I think it was Pyro. Yeah, so here we have HVBAT low side Pyro and high side Pyro.
I love that it says deployed, because I felt this, Alex. When those things went, it sounded like a firework was going off underneath the truck.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it is. It's a pyrotechnic, just like an airbag would be. So that's pretty much exactly what it is.
Wow.
Well, sounds about right. It wasn't like loud enough to scare me. It sounded like, you know how sometimes, Alex, when you plug the truck into like a supercharger and it has to switch into 400 volt mode, those are like nice little clicks. It was like that, just like turned up to 11, and it was like boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was filming.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the high side and low side deployed, and then there's some other alerts for it too. Like we have, high side and low side squib open. And basically what those say is low side Pyro squib is open circuit, low side HV pack will be blocked, charge and drive may be unavailable, measured resistance is saturated, et cetera, et cetera.
So Alex, what's the fix for the Pyros? Those are one-time use, right? Don't we have to drop the battery now?
Yeah, so the Pyros would have to be replaced. I'm not sure on the Cybertruck if the pack actually has to be dropped. They're probably more than likely accessible through the PCS. But I could be wrong. I know that on like Model 3 and Model Y, they're available through the PCS under the back seat. On the Cybertruck, I'm not 100% certain. We could actually look it up on the service manual and see what it actually takes to replace that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know because one thing I haven't heard a peep from is Tesla service on anything because my appointment is still not till later this week.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you tried to send a message or anything, or no?
Yeah, I sent them a message. I talked to the guys there. They're aware of what's going on, but they're like, "We'll wait till it's here to see what's going on," of course. And now, if the truck gets towed in, maybe they would prioritize it. So maybe on
Yeah.
Monday I'll tow it in. I got to bring my Model S in for service on Monday anyway. It's Tesla
Oh,
service
yeah.
week. So I'll talk to them when I'm there about it.
So the other thing that we can do here as well is besides just looking at the alerts, we can also look at signals too. So we can actually look at the the states in the signals of what it's saying. So there you can see it says deployed for the state on the Pyro.
I love that. Deploying a Pyro. That's so cool.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, we have a diag status. So here we've got no tests run, all tests passed, no tests run, and then squib open circuit.
That's where
And
it
if you
freaks
scroll,
out.
if we increased our time scale here, we would see this all tests passed for no tests run, just going back in time indefinitely, basically,
Right.
until, of course, it went open circuit earlier today.
So, I mean, obviously, we're not looking for a full diagnosis from you, Alex, but what do you think about why this happened when again, the high voltage system was active on the truck because I was preheating it. So that
Right.
has to wake up the system. What do you think it was about hitting the brake pedal and turning on drive rail that sent the high voltage interlock loop of the right rear inverter to show a fault, which then blew the pyros?
That's a pretty good question. It's kind of hard to really say for sure. I'm going to guess, normally, if it was a high voltage interlock fault, typically what would happen is the vehicle would just open the contactors and it just wouldn't allow the contactors to close anymore. Usually that's not something that'll blow a Pyro. My guess is that there may have potentially been a short circuit in that phase B on that inverter. But, again, that's kind of just a little bit of a guess at this point. There was also some alerts that I did see that were related to a potential issue with the I can't remember what the exact name was for it. It's basically the dual throw, no, dual position, dual throw, which is basically your relay that either puts the pack in parallel or in series for high and low voltage. And there's an alert here for a mismatch issue related to that.
That could make sense in a theory. So maybe not, though, because the truck charges on AC in high voltage mode, I would imagine. Right. And it drives in high voltage mode. It's not like it was charging on a DC charger where it would need to switch voltages. Right. Maybe just do you think there was potentially some sort of a high voltage shock or dirty power that went through the system? Like it tried to energize the rear motor. There was a short, there was something, and it basically energized the rear motor when it shouldn't have, which then caused the pyros to go.
That would be my guess, is that it's probably something related to that rear drive unit. That's, we already know that right rear inverter was a problem. So, more than likely, it's probably something related to that. It's a lot less likely there would be, some other coincidental failure that happened at the same time. But I suppose anything's possible. But more than likely, I would suspect that it's probably going to be related to that right rear inverter.
Now, all of these systems are primarily for the safety of not having high voltage go to places where it shouldn't be. But do you think that there was a chance while driving it around, there was a high voltage leakage, or the rear motor could have been, energized in a weird way? Or do you think there was any sort of safety concern along the way?
I don't think so, because I haven't seen any alerts that would relate to a loss of high voltage isolation. So usually if there was any kind of a leakage from the high voltage system to the chassis, you'd see some isolation related alerts. And I haven't seen anything like that combing through the stuff here. So I don't think that there's any kind of issue as far as that goes.
Yeah, and we're alive because we touched the truck.
Yeah.
So I think we tested that one for you. Any final thoughts on this issue? I mean, this is certainly, it seems like it went from bad to extreme real quick, and the truck kind of took a meltdown here. Yeah, what is your impression? What's your thought on all of this?
I mean, yeah, I would say that it definitely seems like it's probably, one of these inverter issues. It seems like it's been kind of a known thing. I've seen a number of different reports, as far as these issues. I haven't really heard as many for the tri-motor trucks with the rear motors and inverters. Mostly it seems like it's either on the dual motor on the rear or on the front motor for the tri-motor, but it seems like there might be some kind of issues with the drive units on these.
Yeah, that's my impression. Basically, my summary, because now I had the front motor replaced, now the rear motor's out, and now the whole truck's out. What do you think if we jump the 48 volt, it'll come back? Because I'm worried about getting it out of my garage.
Yeah, I mean, there should be some sort of a procedure that you should be able to at least jump it, and
yeah, I've had to do it once before after a range test on this.
Yeah.
But do you think the truck will allow the low voltage systems to spin back up?
Oh yeah, I mean, it should allow the low voltage systems to be able to power back up, and you should be able to, if you need to roll it out of the garage, get it into tow mode or something, and be able to get it to move.
Great, and fingers crossed.
You're probably going to need a pretty significant amount of power supply to it, especially, I mean, because it completely relies on the power steering to be able to steer. So you're probably going to need a pretty robust power supply to be able to keep it alive. Yeah,
that's a good point. Steer by wire. Going to be interesting. Yeah, because the whole steering wheel is just floppy right now. It's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, normally, on one of these, if you say on a Model S, I deal with old Model S all the time. If you have to jump the 12 volt system and get it into tow mode, you can still steer it manually, without any power steering. But on the Cybertruck, you're kind of dead in the water. You can't really steer it anywhere if you need to. So
yeah, one thing I will mention, Alex, is when the high voltage Pyros went and I was still having low voltage power, I just for a second turned the wheel, and the front wheels did turn, but the rear wheels were disabled. So it left, just probably to conserve power on the 48 volt system, it left just the front motor steering enabled. That worked fine.
Yeah, and there's actually some alerts in there related to low voltage system trying to conserve power too. So that's almost certainly what it would be. If it was just trying to preserve as much power capability as it could to be able to limp it along for as long as it needed to.
Yeah, I'm just surprised the low voltage battery died so quickly. My understanding is it's like just over a kilowatt hour. And I mean, it was like 2 minutes, and I moved the wheel like for a quick second, and it was fine before and after. And then it just randomly, I actually did a dual scroll wheel reset and tried to reset that way because I didn't know what was going on. And the truck came back to life and all was fine. And it was only like a minute after that the whole thing died.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not totally familiar enough with the 48 volt system on the Cybertruck, but it might kind of go into a safe mode where it's trying to keep the 48 volt battery from being completely drained. So it might have something to do with that. I know that on, Model S, Model 3, any of that stuff, if the high voltage system loses power, especially if the screens and stuff in the vehicle are on, usually the car won't stay alive for more than maybe 30 minutes, potentially an hour at the very most. And that's probably if the screens aren't on, but usually it dies pretty quickly.
Okay. Well, thanks, Alex. Appreciate you digging into this. We're going to have an episode coming on Toolbox in the future because I'm just obsessed with that tool. Yeah, that is so cool. I love it. What I'd love to do is to do Toolbox, do a track day in the Plaid, and look at all the temperature data off of it afterwards.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That would be really fun. So anyway, thanks, Alex. Subscribe to Out of Spec Renew, and we're going back to the garage to finish up this video. Yep. Guys, we're just going through more signals after filming that, and Alex found that our DPDT state, which is our basically the contactors that switch it from parallel to series configuration, indicates that the truck was stuck in parallel, which could actually be a different issue than the inverter, right, Alex?
Right, yeah, that's certainly a a potential possibility, and I can actually bring up the alert for that. So we have this DP-DT series state mismatch alert, and if we look at the article for that, it says DP-DT module is in a series state, but the high voltage sense lines show a mismatch. Vehicle might be unable to drive or support the low voltage system. Is in series state, does not equal pack high voltage.
So it's saying that it should be in a high voltage.
It has an additional article for possible causes, and it says possible causes DP-DT stuck in parallel mode, which is what that sort of data point seemed to potentially indicate.
But Alex, wouldn't it need to be connected to a DC charger to even get into parallel mode?
I would certainly think so.
But I was just on AC charging.
Right, yeah.
So maybe it went through some weird thing when I unplugged the truck and then started it back up. And maybe it's not related to the inverter. I don't know. It
could be a separate issue, but yeah, it's a little bit hard to say. I mean, it could be that something with the drive inverter having an internal short may have potentially damaged something in, the DP-DT. Who knows? We're doing a little bit more digging, guys, and we're looking at why the low voltage system may have died. So, Alex, you pulled up this chart over here, and we're looking at essentially the moment that the Pyro's deployed versus the voltage of the low voltage battery. And again, the truck low voltage systems carried on for a couple minutes after the Pyro's blew, but you can see the voltage sag. It must have been under crazy load, or the DC to DC just cut off and it's resting, maybe it was at low state of charge, because it went from 45 volts, 46 volts down to 40, right, Alex? Yeah, so it's pretty much, right around 46 volts through here. We get a lot of up and down because the scaling is a little bit weird here. But here you can see just before the squib deploys, you can kind of see our vertical line here, right? The blue dot up there is when the squib actually deployed for the Pyro. And then you can see our voltage down at the bottom. So if we go just one frame over when it actually deploys, you can see our voltage drops from almost 46 down to just above 40. Right. And what's interesting is it was probably hanging on at around 40 volts until it gave up and hit its under voltage limit. So it must have been under extreme load when the Pyros blew. Yeah, I mean, it was probably under a fairly significant amount of load. And I'm sure that under normal circumstances, under normal circumstances, when the truck is operating, when it's on, you're going to have DC to DC support all the time. So as soon as you lose that DC to DC support, any loads that you're pulling on it are just going to cause voltage sag, and it's going to, continue to drop in voltage until it dies completely. Yeah. Well, Andreas, nothing's looking good here, is it?
No, not really.
What I wish would have happened in reality was I wish my Tesla app would have showed, hey, you've got a recall on your truck. Or maybe if I paid more attention to the forums and stuff, but I would have known that the tri-motors had this. But since I already had that motor replaced, I thought I was good to go. And I would have been just in the clear. And clearly, this is an issue that has disabled the truck. And there's other problems with the truck beyond this motor disability, but I've never had an electric car. And we've owned a lot of electric cars.
Oh, yeah.
That have just been like non-functioning anything, just completely died. So to me, it's really sad because I do like the truck. I like to drive it. I think it's cool. But man, this issue is like taking a turn for the worse. And I hope none of the high voltage systems were damaged. What I really don't think any of us can understand is why the truck was drivable. You park it, it charged, it preconditioned, which means it ran high voltage, heat pump. So it kicked on the loop. Everything was good. As soon as I touched the brake to activate drive rail, boom, dead. And I don't know how that could have happened. I don't know what that damaged internally in the truck, but it's just another Cybertruck update on the way to figuring out what's going to happen to this thing. And what I really don't know at the moment is it going to get fixed? Or are they just going to take it back? And if they do take it back, what's going to happen to it? Like, I don't want to just see it crushed and moved on.
So sad.
That would be so sad. But hopefully we can figure out what happens to it because I will miss it. I do enjoy it. So anyway, 11 days of when the time I scheduled service to the time where they could take it in. That doesn't mean they have parts or anything good to go. That was just the automatic date selection. Once it gets there on the 18th, which is this week. Well, first of all, how are we going to get it there, Andreas?
Oh my God, that's good. You gotta get it out of here too somehow.
We're going to have to hook it up to the back of the old Model 3
Yeah.
and pull this thing out of the garage.
Good old Model 3.
So
Yeah, how they...
it's amazing. That has 150,000 miles on it.
Yep.
No major problems that I can think of.
Great road tripper.
Model 3 is like one of the best cars ever made.
Yep.
This is just a list of problems that I really wish they had dialed in because it's a cool concept.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to have to drag this thing out of the garage.
I guess so. And then tow it.
The neighbors are going to love it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
They're all going to come out and have a watch party.
Yeah.
Damn, that's going to suck.
But it'll be an interesting video.
It'll be a good opening segment,
Yeah.
a sad one. And
Yeah.
then we'll document what happens with service. But
Exactly.
we've got ourselves a brick. I don't know what's going to come. Hopefully Tesla can give me some idea as to whether or not they'll buy it back, or we're going to wait for X number of days for them to go through and drop the battery and replace Pyro fuses and motor inverter. I don't want to wait for that. By that point, I could just have a new dual motor or a used dual motor.
Yeah.
Or an F350 diesel.
Yeah. Or a Silverado EV LT.
Yeah, I'd go RST. I'd probably go Sierra Denali.
Dude, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to think about replacing it yet
No,
because I don't know
we
what
love the
happens.
Cybertruck.
I really...
Yeah.
The most useful feature on this truck, there's two of them. FSD is amazing.
Mhm.
It's not as good in the Cybertruck as it is in the other cars, but still almost irreplaceable.
Mhm.
And having a NEMA 1450 40 amp output on this thing
Yeah.
for charging.
Our range test.
Yeah, well, how are we going to do range tests?
Yeah.
We need this.
We don't have any other car.
Well, thankfully, I have to give my buddy Dan a shout out, Spotted Model,
Spotted
on
man.
Twitter, and I think on TikTok, and I think on YouTube as well.
YouTube too now. Yeah.
Yep. And so he's a neighbor of ours. He lives here in town.
Yep.
And he has a Cybertruck, him and his wife. So shout out to them for letting me borrow it for the Model Y range test. So
Yes.
you won't see a white Cybertruck. We'll have a black Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we have a lot of friends with these things.
Yeah. Looks pretty sick.
So not the videos I want to bring to you guys. I think right now with all the controversy going around on the Cybertruck, you know, we're not here to take any sides in that. That's not out of specs position ever.
Yep.
We just review cars and just ignore the noise. However, I always thought it was kind of cool that everyone's like, oh, Cybertruck sucks. You can't tow, can't do all this stuff. And I'm like, no, look at all the stuff we're able to do. That was our experience. But this is also our experience. And it just happens to be really coming at the worst time for Tesla.
Yeah, exactly.
The last thing they need is more negative videos. And here we are. Our job is not to protect them. It's just to be enthusiast owners and reviewers.
Yeah.
And this is currently dead in my garage. And I'm definitely not happy about it. I'm pretty bummed.
Yeah. It's a big home battery you got there now.
Yeah, I can't even do my power share. Imagine we lose power tonight for like a week.
Oh,
that would be that'd be crazy. Okay, well, thanks so much for watching this out of spec reviews video. I'll keep you updated on the fate of our Cybertruck, and I still have my full 1-year ownership review coming to you. Hopefully, I can drive it.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully, that means that it needs to be done in a week and a half
Yep.
for the 1-year
Right.
celebration. Otherwise, we might have to delay the video a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think there's no way this thing's going to be running in a week and a half.
I don't think so.
See you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.